Highgate Cemetery. Located in North London, this 37-acre cemetery is the final resting place for 170,000 people, including famous actors, TV presenters and pop stars. It opened in 1839 to cope with the ever-growing number of burials that local churches were unable to support due to lack of space. The Victorians' fascination with death and dying saw the creation of Gothic-style tombs with ornate stonework and carvings. It became popular within the media in the 1960s, and those listeners who remember the Hammer horror movies of the 1970s will recognise that this backdrop was used in many of those films. With so much history, witness accounts of sightings ranging from a vampire, a floating man in Victorian attire, and the charred remains of a headless woman have all been reported. Legend has it that the vampire is a spirit of a medieval nobleman from Romania who practiced the black arts when he lived in Romania. He was brought to England in the 18th century in a coffin, but was awakened by modern-day Satanists. A witness from the British Psychic and Occult Society saw a grey figure. At the time he thought it was someone dressed up playing a prank because of all the rumours of vampires in the cemetery. The figure gave off a feeling of menace as opposed to evil, said the witness. The sighting lasted just 4 or 5 seconds, but filled me with an unpleasant energy, which after a short time just dissipated. My own account of this creepy and foreboding place was in 2015. We travelled by train and it had taken a long time to get there, and it had been a tiresome journey. Unbeknownst to me, the cemetery closes earlier in the winter months, and we had arrived too late. On arriving, I begged the gatekeeper to let us in and explained how far we'd travelled. She agreed to fetch the manager. After explaining to the manager that I was keen to enter the cemetery, he agreed to let us in for 30 minutes. Okay, not really enough time to explore the whole site, but I was grateful for his kindness. On walking around, I became immediately aware that we were being watched by many pairs of eyes. There was an awful feeling of heaviness accompanied with a feeling of not being welcome. I saw in my peripheral vision a lady dressed completely in white kneeling at a grave, and picked up that she was from the 1800s. I saw she was the spirit of a young girl who had passed in her mid to late 20s, having had severe psychiatric difficulties for most of her short life. I sensed she flitted about the graves and roamed the whole cemetery, randomly kneeling and praying. When she was alive, she just ran around shrieking and acting strangely. In death, she was just behaving the same way. She was not aware of me. To be honest, I was glad to get out of there. When it was time to go, the gatekeeper rings a huge bell, clearly audible throughout the whole place. Even walking out through the gate and along the perimeter fence, I was still aware of being watched. That feeling didn't leave me until we were at least a few streets away. The cemetery is surrounded by houses. I wonder if residents look out of their windows at night across the cemetery and see apparitions or ghostly mists and shapes. I bet they do.